Welcome to Straight from the Heart, the official podcast of the Heartland Black Chamber of Commerce. We're here to get to the core of what truly matters in Kansas City, from business and politics to culture and community. We're having the real conversations that connect us, build us, and moves us forward. I'm your host, Kim Davis, and this is Straight from the Heart. Today's episode, we're going to talk about people, pastors, and politicians. Now, I know that's going to be a deep conversation because we can have a whole long series just on that. But today, I really want to dive into how closely these three P's match and where we are today. I want to look at our pastors. I want to look at our politicians, and I want to see how they are serving the people. Today with me again is my friend Khalid Abdulqaadir, and he is here to help us dissect and dive deep into this topic. Welcome back.
Glad to be here. Thank you. Good to see you as
always.
It's
wonderful to always see you and to be in the room with you. You know, we always have these good, deep conversations.
Yeah.
And one of the conversations that I wanted to have for a long time is where we are today, historically, for Black people. And I'm going to talk about Black people today because I think it's important that we talk about our history.
Yeah.
We have to be the ones that express or even teach our history. So historically, if we go back, even before we were brought over in slavery and we were in tribes in other countries, the religious priests were the leaders of our villages.
Right.
We always turn to the priesthood or the priests or the ministry in our community.
Yeah.
And then
very spiritual people.
Very spiritual. And then after or post-slavery, or I won't say post-slavery, once we were brought here in America and we were taught the colonial Christianity of religion, we became and we turned to our own spiritual leaders, whether they were pastors or imams or even rabbis, because we have to remember there are Black Jews in America.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you look at today, I grew up in the 60s and 70s. And so I can say that there was a time that if there was something to be addressed in our community, the Black pastors would come together.
Yeah.
And I believe it was the Black pastors, the Black imams, and the Black rabbi. Well, we didn't have any Black rabbis that I know of, but the rabbis would come in response to coming together about the people and the needs of the people.
Mm-hmm.
But today, I hear a lot about how we have all these press conferences and we have the same group of people, but the voice of the people are rarely heard.
Right. Yeah. You know, in the 60s or the civil rights era in general, a lot of the movements came out of the church. You know what I mean? The church was a community. There was even more than that even happened in the church, even like employment. You know, if there was like like in Detroit, for example, I know that, you know, General Motors would have relationships with a church, and that's how they would actually find a lot of their employees, was through their relationship with the church. And so the church and the Black community, it really was everything. And if you think from a wider cultural perspective, that's even where like a lot of our music comes from and everything like that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the church, super important to the Black community. Spirituality has been important since the beginning, and still important today. But yeah, that relationship is much different today than it was, you know, even in the 80s, you know, when I was born. That relationship has changed a lot, I would say.
You know, and let me make it clear. I'm not picking on pastors because I happen to be a pastor myself. And pastoring a church in Missouri and South Kansas City. It's very interesting. The politics of church.
Yeah.
When growing up in church, you don't know all the things that the leadership is talking about in the rooms. If you're in the Baptist church, what the deacons and the deaconess and the minister is talking about, or in the United Methodist Church, now we have the simplified structure, which is accountability, which is no longer the ad council, but now it is called the board. And there are meetings that are politically motivated. Let me say that. And so when I think about pastors and politicians, the one thing that they both have in common is they are both supposed to serve the people.
I like the word you use, supposed to.
Yes, I have to say supposed to serve the people. And as a relatively new pastor, I've only been a lead pastor in a church, and it's a predominantly white church. It's an older church. We're diversifying and convening inclusivity. That's my favorite word in that church. But as a new pastor, I get a lot of concern from members. And one of the things that members talk to me about is the fact that I have a job and I work for a chamber of commerce, and the feeling that we are no longer shepherds, that we are now self-serving. And having that balance to understand that when you look at like the mega churches that we have out here, and please, this is a disclaimer, I'm not putting any church down. I'm not putting any pastor down. I'm not judging anybody for how they do their churching. What I am saying is what I'm hearing in the community, and the concern is, how can you be the lead shepherd and not know your sheep?
Yeah. I mean, that's one of those $1 million questions. That's like a meaning of life question, but there is some practical applications to it. Obviously we got the stereotypical mega church leader who's got a private jet and everything like that. And I think the existence of these types of pastors has distorted the public opinion of pastors in general. And we got social media, and once we got a video of a pastor telling people to close the doors, doing this kind of stuff to make sure that the money is given for tithes and things like that. The perception of what a pastor is and their connection to their community gets further distorted. And so it's got a lot of people question, especially young people are really asking the question, is church really what my parents have said it is, what my grandparents have said it is? Is it really what I may think it is? Or is it something where, people are actually just being schemed or scammed out of their money?
Yeah.
And so on. So I think, and I have several pastors in my family.
Yeah.
And I was raised in a Islamic environment. My father was an imam, but my grandmother was a Christian woman.
Yeah.
And so she didn't give a damn what my dad was talking about. On Sunday, I went to church.
Right.
With her,
Yeah. You got a double dose of God.
Oh, yeah. And so I think, from the pastors that are in my family currently and the ones that I've known in the past, I think the ones that were the most engaged with the flock, with their people, were the most effective. And I don't want to call it the old days, but in the past, I think that was a little bit more prevalent. The pastor would come and eat dinner with everybody. The pastor would come to things that were going on at school. The pastor was engaged in the community's life outside of the church.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big difference now. I think people today tend to go to church And then when they're out of church, they're not in church anymore at all.
And
if they saw their pastor somewhere, they might try to run or something like that.
Right.
Pastor show up at the club.
Right. Well, and that brings me also to politicians. So, the interesting thing about a politician is when that politician is a candidate, he is seeking you. He is inviting you. He is listening to you. He is talking to you. He is open for conversation. You can set up a meeting with him. You can all the things that make you feel like that this person hears me.
Yeah.
But once they are elected, it's almost like the C's get kind of confused and they no longer become civil servants, but now they're celebrities and we are vying just to take a selfie with them, to say we're in the same room with them, but we're not actually able to connect.
Mm-hmm.
And do you see that as part of the social economic disconnect in America, that we are no longer connecting through our pastor or our politicians?
Oh yeah, that now that you bring it up, that actually makes a lot of sense for a lot of things that we see today. As you know, I was in the military, worked for the government for 20 years, did this and that, and so my introduction to service was from the standpoint of basically a lowly worker. You know what I mean? I came in, I wasn't even an E1, which is the first rank.
Yeah.
I was a recruit. It was just an R, you know what I mean?
Right.
I wasn't even a 1 yet.
Yeah.
So I came in at the bottom. And I developed a sense of service to my country, to my community, from the perspective of there was no return on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So my service, which I'm thankful for the military for embedding that in me, is where I got it from. People get it from other places. I got it from the military. Is this selflessness, a sense, and to me, that's what service is. And so when you're in a situation where you're dealing with a politician who needs something from you, and that's when they're most effective or you can have the most connection with them and so on and so forth. But once they get what they're looking for, then they become who they are. And in my opinion, this person doesn't understand what service is.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But definitely that disconnect that we see, and particularly in the Black community, the disconnect of the pastor from the people, and the politician from the people, has a huge impact in multiple ways. One, obviously, the church has a social and moral impact.
Yeah.
If there's a disconnect there, and then from the politician standpoint, this community, our needs are not being met on whatever the political level that this politician is serving us on. So to your point, I would say absolutely, the disconnect from the pastor and the politician from the people has a direct impact on us socially, obviously politically, but economically as well, from a political standpoint, legislation that could pass laws that could potentially benefit us from an economic perspective.
And that's interesting that we talk about this because as you were speaking, I think about there was a time that whenever we needed to know something in our community, the pastors were the ones that reached out to the community and let us know what we needed to do, where we needed to be. When we used to rally together and stand up for our rights, it was usually led by the pastors or the religious leaders. It wasn't just pastors. Mm-hmm. So I want to make that clear, that a lot of times that in history, the history that is put out there, it is only focused on the Christian pastor. But I've met a lot of civil rights pioneers I was a child when the civil rights were going on, so I didn't really know who the leaders are, but I've met pioneers who were part of those rallies and marches and sit-ins, and it was not a Christian base. It
Right.
was a people base.
Yes.
And so you had, and like today, I was looking at the march on Jefferson City yesterday regarding the gerrymandering and the number of different faiths that were in the room, shoulder to shoulder, neck to neck, hollering and saying the same theme.
Right.
And so when I think about politically where we are as a people, is that we don't have the information anymore. We don't know how the economy is affecting us, how tariffs are going to, while our paychecks won't grow, our grocery bill will.
Right.
You may figure a way to lower the interest rate on housing, but how many of us in these communities even own a house?
Right.
Or can qualify to buy a house? The things that are important to the community, I go back to the disconnect between our pastors and our politicians. And a lot of our pastors are stepping into the political arena without the consideration of the people. So we have a lot of pastors going into economic development. We have a lot of pastors that are, and for all intents and purposes, I believe that in my heart, because God tells me that I am supposed to see the good in everybody, I believe that intentionally, they're stepping out saying this is for the greater good. But until we have connected with the people, to see what it is the people are missing or needing or what we're not providing, I think that we missed the mark tenfold.
Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's an excellent point again, which it's like I understand these things, I know them, but I haven't had them articulated to me yet until you have. But yes, very much so. Starting from the civil rights movement, because of the function of the church within a particular community, and the people who were involved in the civil rights movement, really the people who got it going and really kept it together, contrary to what a lot of people know or think, because most people are focused on primarily men of the civil rights movement, and like you said, primarily pastors, Martin Luther King, Medgar Evers, people like that. But it was actually Black women who were the progenitors of the civil rights movement, and they are the ones who would pass this information around. And it was because they had more community. People engaged with each other more often. And a lot of that engagement did happen at the church.
Yeah.
And so where, one individual may have been like a worker in a factory, and they're doing long hours in the factory, and that's all they do is work hard to try to provide for their family. This individual may not understand, the socioeconomic situation, may not understand what a law means and this and that, but they would be able to get with their community, and then the knowledge could be transferred and dispersed around to each other. And because we've kind of lost that community gathering aspect, whether it be with a church or whatever it is, where we got neighbors who, we don't talk to each other.
This is true.
You know what I mean?
This is true.
And so there is no knowledge sharing. There is no, there's even no knowledge sharing as far as you knowing like what's happening with your neighbor or the people down the street.
Yeah.
And that's why the information doesn't diffuse down into the community. And then, like you said earlier, a lot of politicians are looking to engage with people specifically for a vote.
Yeah.
and not necessarily to do like outreach and education.
Yeah.
Or providing people with resources so they can be informed and stuff like that. And so they're engaging with people for the vote, and then as soon as they get the vote, then it's over. Or if they have a particular issue that they're interested in, then they're going to set up a town hall or whatever to talk about what they want to talk about, and then that's it. But there are, obviously it's a spectrum.
Yeah.
There are some great people in politics, and there's some people who aren't great in politics. But I don't know of any personally who demonstrate that they are like seriously dedicated to doing outreach and education in the community, or creating ways for people to have community with each other. And to be honest, I don't know a lot of churches that are doing that either.
Yeah, I was going to go there, and let me say this: I want to segue or move into, this is not just a Black issue anymore.
Yeah.
So when you look, well, honestly, in the evangelica or deep-seated Christian, American Christian, colonial Christian tradition and ritual or belief, they are less, to me, and this is personal, so please don't put this on the Heartland Black Chamber. This does not reflect the belief or understanding of the chamber itself. But as Pastor Kim Davis, I will say that I don't see where the morals and the ideology of the Bible that we put out here align with their rhetoric of today.
Yeah.
I don't see the grace, the love
thy neighbor,
the mercy that Christ gave, but you project out here that this is you're Christians and you have these moral beliefs and you want to control the decision making of another human being.
Yeah.
Which the Bible clearly says that God has given mankind the freedom of choice, and that we are not to judge anyone because that's what God's going to do.
Right.
And that we are to love the sinner but hate the sin. But I think when we look morally, I just heard something on the news the other day where the president made a statement about the counting of violent crimes and how it's miscounted because they want to use domestic violence in those counts, as though and then went on further to say a husband gets into a little disagreement or a little I want to say fight with his wife, and we want to count it. And I'm like, but it's criminal to put your hands on another human being.
Yeah.
And so to say that we have moved our core belief that we're taught about love and justice and respect and grace, the things that are the core of Christianity, and actually, quite frankly, the three monotheistic faiths in the world, has been love thy neighbor, love thy brother and sister. Love is the core to all of it.
Right.
And so even now, I look at churches that disaffiliate with churches because they won't stand on kicking certain people out of the church because of choices that they've made. They are standing on segregation. They are standing on freedom of choice. They're standing on man dictating man instead of God dictating man.
Right.
And so in a society where I believe that we need our pastors.
Mm-hmm.
And we need our politicians good politicians, but we need our politicians who will keep the democracy and keep our processes structured fairly, and so that we are a better nation. How do we demand that? How do we go back and demand that? Because there was a time that we had to demand freedom.
Mm-hmm.
We had to find the right to be able to read alone. Let's just talk about, we had to fight to read and read publicly, let alone be able to move around the country freely, and then have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
How do we demand that again when we have a nation now of politicians that are occupying cities, because that's an occupancy when you bring in the military to stand guard? That's occupying.
Yeah.
How do we demand better?
I think really the only way to demand it is to be it.
Good call.
It's I know it's hard.
Yeah.
But we or anyone has to become what it is they want to see.
So that's the people's responsibility.
Yeah, because our responsibility.
I think that that's something that gets left out a lot.
Yeah.
We put everything on the pastors, everything on the politicians, and nothing on the people.
Right.
The people can have learned to blame the pastors, have learned to blame the politicians, but take no responsibility for the choices or the lack thereof involvement that they take.
Right. Yeah, and from a religious standpoint, Christianity, for example, you don't need the pastor to do God's work.
Come on now, you can preach a sermon for me. Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I say that all the time.
Yeah. And from the political side, you don't need a politician to conduct civic engagement.
That's right.
You know what I mean? You don't need a politician to go knock on your neighbor's door, see how they're doing. If they're elderly or something, you cut their grass or something like that.
Pick up the trash.
Pick up the trash.
Yes.
Gather people together, hold meetings, educate people. Like, you don't need a politician to do any of that.
Yes.
But you're absolutely right that people tend to, and myself included, I do it. We just expect somebody else to do it. We know how hard it is. We know how much it takes.
Yeah.
And a lot of people we got a lot of other things going on. We got families, we got jobs, we got laziness, we got procrastination. That's work too.
Yeah, that is.
You know what I mean?
It takes a lot to procrastinate.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Because you have good intentions. Yes.
And so these things keep us pointing that finger, but really the responsibility, it falls back on ourselves. And so, I think it's very important for people to understand how much agency they actually have to change their environment and the world around them. Like, we're not helpless.
Right.
And we are able to enact change in a major way.
Yeah.
In your immediate community. You can start in your house. You can stand up in your house.
Yes.
On your 2 feet.
Yes.
And you can enact change in your space.
Yeah.
You could clean the space. You could move furniture. You could do something kind for your spouse, for your children, or whatever. Like, you can start doing all of this immediately, like in your own area, and then work your way up. Yeah. And just for the record, I'm talking to myself, while I'm saying
that's like what I say when I'm preaching to myself.
Yeah, I need to do this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. There's things that we do need to do. And we are, until we start accepting that we are not doing our part.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that we have to accept that we're not doing our part. Yep. When you start doing your part, because it's real easy to say, I do this and I do that and I give to people and I pay my tithes and but are you doing your part?
Right.
Because your part doesn't end with the routine thing that you do every week. I get up every morning, and I say this in church a lot. Getting up every morning, pulling out your Bible, doing your daily devotional. I get up at 7 o'clock. It's 7:15. I made me a cup of coffee. By 7:30, I'm sitting down. I want peace and quiet because I need to do my devotional so I can spend time with Jesus.
Mhm.
When I'm done spending time with Jesus, then I'm on my daily. Then what?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't end with a daily devotional.
Right.
It doesn't end with maybe you volunteer to read to kids at the school. It doesn't end with those traditional, oh, I can go do that. It starts and ends with something. When you see something,
Yeah.
you do something about it.
Absolutely.
Without any acknowledgement, without anybody knowing about it, without telling anyone.
Yeah.
It is doing your part. As you said, my neighbor, I have an elderly neighbor. I have a neighbor that's not elderly, but I haven't seen her in a couple of days, or I haven't seen him in a couple of days, or his grass is getting taller, or, his trash can is still on the curb. Let me pull it up by his garage or by his steps. The little things that we can do just out of kindness.
Right.
I think that's where the disconnect comes. Yeah.
Yeah. And you touched on something earlier, when you were talking about the convergence of basically religion and politics.
Mm-hmm.
Basically when, as Americans in a democratic society, when we start to look at religion as a political framework, a theocracy.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a lot of talk right now about like Christian nationalism, for example.
Yeah.
And, it is a interesting phenomenon. And obviously I understand that there's nothing that we can say that's going to convince anybody otherwise. But you do erode your ability to shape, build, and have a good relationship with community, particularly in America, if or when there's a belief or expectation that everybody has to be like you.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's just, this is America.
Yeah.
So America is a diverse country.
Yes.
It's a free country.
Yes.
And when we want to limit that, it's just going to cause a problem. It's going to cause a problem for the person trying to do that, as well as obviously the people who are having those conditions imposed on them. I do understand that everybody has their religious beliefs. As you know, I grew up in an Islamic community,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not a practicing Muslim or anything right now, but I have been in Muslim countries that run their countries based on the religion.
Mm-hmm.
And what I always understood growing up in America, going to the military and stuff like that, was that, that was opposed to American values and what we stand for and things like that. And so, I know there's, the boogeyman word out there is like Sharia, people talk about Sharia law,
Yeah.
But Christian nationalism, and I'm going to say this.
Say it. Go ahead.
Christian nationalism is Sharia law.
Yeah.
That's what it is. If you're going to dictate what people wear, what, how, their behavior, how they marry, all these, their political philosophies and
Yes.
ideology.
Yes.
This is theocracy, and the examples that we have of that around the world are typically Islamic countries.
Mm-hmm.
Because, we got the Vatican, but we don't have like countries that are political theocracies of like Christianity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's where some people want to take America to. And so what does that mean for Americans who are not Christian? It means that they automatically become un-American.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we have a problem. And so that's just where we are right now. I don't know where it's gonna go or how people feel about it, but that is the state that we're in at the moment.
Absolutely. And again, I like to go back to what you said about this ideal that we all have to have the same belief and have to walk the same way and think the same way, and in order to be real Christian. And again, uh, as you know, I practiced Islam for 17 years. Now I'm a Christian pastor. I grew up Christian. And then as an adult for 17 years, I practiced Islam. I am a true believer of God's omnipotence.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that heaven is going to look like a melting pot.
Yeah.
It is going to be everybody that God chooses.
Yeah.
Because
God created.
Because God created everybody and everything.
Yes.
And so everything, and I've preached this sermon over and over again, everything belongs to God. Everything came from him. And whether you can say good, bad, or ugly, it depends on what you want to call good, bad, or ugly. Because in God's eyes, it could be a whole different look and feel.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, heaven, if we believe in a heaven is going to look like a melting pot of everybody.
Yeah.
And it is going to be God's choice who makes it in heaven and who doesn't make it in heaven. And when we try to determine or tell man what you have to do to get to heaven, you have, number one, don't know your Bible. You have contradicted your Bible or your book of faith, because it says you cannot buy salvation. You cannot earn salvation. There's nothing that you can give to God like you can give me. Now you can give me a new car and I'm going to be your friend for real. I don't need a new car. I got a car. But I'm saying, we can buy each other, but you can't buy God.
That's right.
And so, even in our political arena, we tend to think that we can buy everything. Mm-hmm. We can buy a politician. We can buy a pastor. Pastors can be bought. As you mentioned before, we got these pastors that have private jets. They have villas in different countries, and I'm going to say, intentionally or unintentionally or whatever, they utilize the issues and plight of the underserved as a way to gain more money. Mm-hmm. Again, not judging, just saying that when I look at people, pastors, and politicians, I look for where do we unite? Yeah. Where do we come together? Because truly, there has got to be a reckoning in unity, and in all successes that I've seen, from civil rights to Black Lives Matter to even what's going on today. When you look at the unity, when you look at people coming together from all faiths, from all political backgrounds and belief, from all cultures and communities, that makes for a much better and a much more productive nation than it does for us with these divisions that we have in America.
Absolutely.
So I don't know how much more time we have. I don't know how long we've been going on, but Khalid, you and I can go on for days, and I'm sure we'll have a lot more happening. We are coming to the close of this episode of Straight from the Heart. Mm-hmm. Remember, our strength lies in unity. And we here at Heartland Black Chamber are the conveners of inclusivity. If we're not including one another, including anyone from any culture, any pastor, any politician, where we're having those real, live, strong, and honest discussions, we're not doing our job. So until next time, coming straight from the heart, we'll see you again.